Admiral Marcus Blake stood on the bridge of the USV Leviathan and watched the empty space ahead. His ship was massive beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. It stretched over 1 kilometer long and half a kilometer wide. The metal hull was dark, gray and covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift when no one was looking directly at them. The bridge windows showed nothing but stars and darkness, but Marcus knew that would change very soon. Captain Lisa Morgan walked up to him with a datapad in her hands. She had been monitoring the long-range sensors for 3 hours now. Her face was calm, but Marcus could see the tension in her eyes. The alien fleet they had been waiting for was almost here. Lisa had spent months studying their movement patterns and tactics. She knew exactly how they would arrive and what they would try to do first. "Admiral, we have contact," Lisa said quietly. The Imperial fleet just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. 47 ships in standard attack formation. Their flagship is broadcasting the usual demands for surrender. Marcus nodded slowly. Earth had been preparing for this moment for over 2 years. The Galactic Empire had been expanding toward human space, conquering every civilization they encountered. Their method was always the same. They would arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and then either destroy or enslave any species that refused to submit. 47 different alien races had fallen to their advance. Each time, the Empire grew stronger by absorbing new technologies and resources, but Earth had been watching. Hidden observation posts throughout the galaxy had recorded every battle, every tactical move, and every piece of technology the Empire used. Humanity had learned from the mistakes of every conquered species. They had studied the Empire's weaknesses and prepared something the aliens would never expect. Dr. Nathan Cross looked up from his science station. He was a tall man with graying hair who had spent his entire career studying alien languages and cultures. For the past 6 months, he had been analyzing Imperial communication patterns and social structures. He understood how they thought and what motivated them better than anyone else on the ship. "The Empire's communication is following their standard protocol," Nathan said. "High Commander Zeth Kalar is personally leading this fleet. He's demanding we identify ourselves and prepare for boarding. They're giving us 10 minutes to respond before they begin their attack." Engineer Amy Sullivan was monitoring the ship's power systems from her station near the back of the bridge. The Leviathan's engines were unlike anything any other species had ever built. They ran on principles that seemed to bend the normal rules of physics. Amy had helped design them using technology borrowed from all 47 conquered civilizations, but improved and combined in ways no one else had thought possible. "All systems are running perfectly," Amy reported. "Power levels are steady and all defensive systems are online. The quantum field generators are maintaining perfect stability." Marcus smiled slightly. The quantum field generators were one of Earth's greatest secrets. They created a barrier around the ship that made it impossible for normal sensors to get accurate readings. To the Empire's instruments, the Leviathan would appear to be something completely different every time they scanned it. Sometimes it would look like solid metal. Other times it would seem to be made of energy or exotic matter. The confusion this created was already working in humanity's favor. Commander Jake Phillips was handling communications from his station. He was a younger officer who had trained specifically for first contact situations. His job was to control exactly what information the aliens received and when they received it. Jake had orders to maintain complete radio silence until Admiral Blake gave him permission to respond. "The Empire is getting frustrated," Jake reported. "They've sent the surrender demand 3 more times. Their flagship is moving closer, and their weapons are charging. I think they're about to try a warning shot." Lisa checked her tactical displays. The Imperial ships were beautiful in their own way. They looked like giant crystals that had been shaped into perfect geometric forms. Each ship glowed with internal light and moved through space without any visible engines. Their weapons were energy beams that could cut through almost any known material. Their shields could deflect most attacks, and their hulls could repair themselves when damaged. But Lisa had studied every weakness in their design. She knew that their weapons needed time to charge between shots. She understood that their shields had blind spots that could be exploited. Most importantly, she had learned that the Empire's greatest weakness was their complete dependence on technology they didn't fully understand. They had inherited most of their advanced systems from ancient ruins scattered across the galaxy. They could use these devices, but they couldn't improve them or adapt them to new situations. The Imperial fleet began to spread out into their standard attack formation. Marcus had seen this pattern 47 times before in the recorded battles. The Empire always started the same way. They would surround their target and demand surrender. If that failed, they would fire warning shots to demonstrate their power. Then they would begin a systematic attack designed to disable rather than destroy. The Empire preferred to capture intact ships and technology whenever possible. "Admiral," Nathan said, "I'm picking up their internal communications." "High Commander, Zethkalar is confused by our lack of response. He's never encountered a species that simply waited like this. The Empire is used to dealing with fear or aggression, not patient silence." Amy watched her instruments carefully as the Imperial scanners tried to penetrate the Leviathan's hull. The quantum field generators were working perfectly. Every scan produced different results. The aliens' computers were probably reporting that the human ship was simultaneously solid metal, pure energy, exotic matter, and empty space. Their artificial intelligence systems would be struggling to process such contradictory information. Marcus knew that confusion was humanity's greatest weapon right now. The Empire had conquered the galaxy by being predictable and overwhelming. They used the same tactics against every enemy because those tactics always worked. But humans had learned to be unpredictable. Earth's strategy was based on doing exactly what the enemy didn't expect. "Time until they fire their first warning shot?" Marcus asked. Lisa checked her calculations. "Approximately 4 minutes, Admiral." "They're following their standard timeline exactly." Marcus nodded. Everything was going according to plan. The Empire thought they were dealing with another primitive species that would either surrender immediately or fight back desperately. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this exact scenario for years. Earth had built the Leviathan specifically to face the Imperial fleet. Every system on the ship had been designed to counter the Empire's greatest strengths. Waiting continued. Marcus could feel the tension building among his crew, but he also sensed their confidence. Everyone on the bridge knew that this moment would determine the future of human civilization. If they succeeded, Earth would survive, and the galaxy would change forever. If they failed, humanity would become just another conquered species. The Empire's growing collection, the Imperial fleet, finished moving into position. High Commander Zethkalar's flagship took the center of the formation, while the other ships spread out in a perfect circle around the Leviathan. Their weapons were fully charged, and their shields were at maximum power. Everything was ready for the standard Imperial conquest protocol to begin. Marcus Blake looked at his crew one final time. These men and women represented the best of humanity. They had trained for years to reach this moment. Now it was time to show the galaxy what Earth could do. "All stations ready, Admiral," Lisa reported quietly. Marcus smiled. "Then let's begin." High Commander Zethkalar stood in the center of his flagship's command chamber and stared at the viewing screen in complete confusion. In all his years of conquest across the galaxy, he had never encountered anything like the massive human vessel that floated silently before his fleet. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times larger than his own flagship, but it showed no signs of weapons, engines, or any technology he could recognize. His science officer, Veltar, was frantically working at her station trying to make sense of the sensor readings. Her crystalline fingers moved rapidly across the control surfaces as data streams flowed around her in holographic displays. Every scan of the human ship produced completely different results. One moment their instruments showed solid metal construction. The next scan indicated the entire vessel was made of pure energy. A third reading suggested it was built from exotic matter that shouldn't exist according to known physics. "Commander," Veltar said with obvious frustration in her voice, "our sensors cannot determine the basic composition of their hull. The readings are completely contradictory. Our artificial intelligence systems are reporting critical errors because they cannot process such impossible data." Zeeth Kalar's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the human ship more carefully. The Empire had perfected their conquest methods over hundreds of years and thousands of battles. They had developed sensors that could analyze any known material or energy signature. Their quantum disruptors could tear apart molecular bonds in virtually any substance. Their shield penetrators could find weaknesses in any defensive system. But all of their advanced technology seemed useless against this single human vessel. The tactical officer reported that their weapon systems were fully charged and ready to fire. Standard Imperial protocol called for a warning shot to demonstrate their overwhelming firepower. This psychological tactic had worked against every species they had encountered. Most civilizations surrendered immediately when they saw what Imperial weapons could do. Those that refused to submit were quickly overwhelmed by superior technology and tactics. But something about the human ship made Zeeth Kalar hesitate. The vessel just sat there in space without any visible reaction to the Imperial fleet's arrival. There were no signs of panic or preparation for battle. The humans weren't trying to run away or send desperate communication signals. They were simply waiting with what seemed like infinite patience. Commander Jake Phillips monitored the alien communications from his station aboard the Leviathan. His translation software had been analyzing Imperial language patterns for months. He could understand most of what the aliens were saying to each other, and their growing confusion was obvious. The Empire's commanders were starting to question their own instruments and tactics. Dr. Nathan Cross was carefully studying the alien behavior patterns through passive sensors. He had learned that the Empire relied heavily on psychological warfare to break their enemy's will to fight. Their standard approach was designed to create fear and desperation in their opponents. But humans had prepared for exactly this situation. Earth's strategy was based on remaining calm and unpredictable while the enemy grew increasingly frustrated. "The Imperial fleet is maintaining standard formation," Nathan reported quietly. "But their internal communications show growing uncertainty. High Commander Zeeth Kalar is consulting with his advisors about how to proceed. This is the first time in Imperial history that a target species has failed to respond to their standard intimidation tactics." Admiral Marcus Blake nodded approvingly. Everything was proceeding exactly as Earth's strategists had predicted. The Empire's greatest weakness was their complete dependence on proven methods. They had conquered 47 different species, using the same basic approach every time. Success had made them rigid and predictable. They had never learned to adapt when their standard tactics failed to work. Engineer Amy Sullivan was monitoring the quantum field generators that surrounded the Leviathan. These devices were humanity's greatest technological achievement. They created localized distortions in space-time that made accurate sensor readings impossible. The Empire's instruments were designed to analyze normal matter and energy, but the quantum fields made the human ship appear to exist in multiple states simultaneously. "Field generators are operating perfectly," Amy reported. "The alien sensors are getting more confused with each scan. Their computers are probably overheating from trying to process contradictory data. Captain Lisa Morgan studied the Imperial fleet's formation on her tactical displays. She had memorized every detail of their standard attack patterns from studying recordings of previous battles. The Empire always positioned their ships in the same geometric arrangements. They used identical tactics against every opponent because those tactics had always been successful. Their predictability was something Earth could exploit. "The Imperial flagship is moving closer," Lisa observed. "High Commander Zith Kalar wants to get better sensor readings of our hull. He's probably hoping that proximity will help his instruments penetrate whatever is blocking their scans." But the closer the Imperial ships moved, the more confused their readings became. The quantum fields around the Leviathan actually grew stronger when subjected to more intense scanning. Amy had designed the system to feed on the energy from enemy sensors and use it to create even greater distortions. The harder the Empire tried to understand the human ship, the more incomprehensible it became. Aboard the Imperial flagship, Vel Tar was becoming increasingly desperate. Her reputation as the Empire's finest science officer was built on her ability to analyze and understand any technology they encountered. But the human vessel was beyond her comprehension. Every scientific principle she knew suggested that the readings she was getting were impossible. "Commander," she reported with obvious distress, "I believe there may be a fundamental error in our understanding of physics. The human ship appears to violate several basic laws of matter and energy. Either our instruments are completely malfunctioning, or we are dealing with technology that operates on principles we have never encountered." Zith Kalar felt a cold sensation in his chest. The Empire's dominance was based on technological superiority. They had inherited advanced systems from ancient ruins scattered across the galaxy. These technologies had made them the most powerful force in known space. But if humans possessed even more advanced knowledge, the Empire's entire foundation for conquest could be threatened. The Imperial fleet's weapons officer requested permission to fire a warning shot. Standard protocol called for demonstrating their destructive power to convince the enemy to surrender. But Zeth Kalar was beginning to doubt whether their weapons would have any effect on the mysterious human vessel. If their most powerful quantum disruptors failed to damage the ship, it would be a humiliating display of Imperial weakness. Dr. Nathan Cross had been monitoring the alien decision-making process through their communication channels. He could sense the growing uncertainty among the Imperial commanders. Their confidence was starting to crack as they realized their standard methods weren't working. This psychological shift was exactly what Earth's strategists had hoped to achieve. "Admiral," Nathan said quietly, "I think it's time to establish communication. The Empire is ready to listen instead of just demanding surrender." Marcus considered the timing carefully. Human psychology experts had studied the optimal moment to make first contact with a confused and frustrated enemy. Too early, and the aliens would still be confident in their superiority. Too late, and they might become desperate enough to attack without thinking. The balance had to be perfect. Commander Jake Phillips prepared the communication system. Earth had developed sophisticated translation protocols based on analysis of Imperial language patterns. The first words humans spoke to the Empire would be crucial in establishing the proper psychological framework for everything that followed. Engineer Amy Sullivan made subtle adjustments to the quantum field generators. She reduced their intensity, just enough to allow limited sensor penetration of the Leviathan's outer hull. The aliens would finally get some clear readings, but only of what humanity wanted them to see. The real secrets of the ship would remain hidden beneath layers of misdirection and technological camouflage. The Imperial fleet waited in tense formation around the human vessel. 47 ships that had conquered countless worlds were paralyzed by uncertainty when facing a single Earthship. High Commander Zeth Kalar stared at the viewing screen and wondered if he was about to witness the end of Imperial expansion across the galaxy. Inside the Leviathan, the human crew prepared for the next phase of their carefully planned encounter. They had spent years studying their enemy's weaknesses and preparing countermeasures for every Imperial tactic. Now it was time to show the galaxy that Earth was ready to change the balance of power forever. The silence between the two fleets stretched on as both sides prepared for whatever would come next. In that moment of perfect tension, the future of galactic civilization hung in the balance. The Empire's age of unchallenged dominance was about to face its greatest test, and humanity was ready to prove that sometimes the most powerful weapon was simply being completely unpredictable. Admiral Marcus Blake gave the signal, and the Leviathan began to change. What had appeared to be a single massive ship suddenly started splitting apart along invisible seam lines. The outer hull separated into dozens of perfectly coordinated sections that moved with mechanical precision. High Commander Zeth Kalar watched in growing alarm as the human vessel revealed its true nature. The Leviathan was not just one ship. It was an entire fleet compressed into a single structure. As the hull sections retracted, they exposed massive internal spaces that seemed to exist in dimensions that shouldn't fit within the original vessel's boundaries. Thousands of smaller ships began emerging from hidden bays and launching tubes that had been completely invisible to Imperial sensors. Engineer Amy Sullivan coordinated the unfolding sequence from her station. She had spent 3 years designing the compression systems that allowed an entire battle fleet to exist within the space of a single megacarrier. The technology was based on principles borrowed from 47 different alien civilizations, but improved and combined in ways that created entirely new possibilities. All launch bays are opening successfully, Amy reported. Internal shipyard. Sections are extending to full deployment. Manufacturing centers are coming online and beginning production of additional vessels. Dr. Nathan Cross established the first direct communication link with the Imperial flagship. His message was transmitted in perfect Imperial standard, using formal diplomatic protocols that showed humanity's deep understanding of alien culture and customs. But the content of his message was unlike anything the Empire had ever heard from a newly contacted species. "Greetings, High Commander Zith Kalar," Nathan said calmly. "I am Dr. Nathan Cross, representing the human species of Earth. We have been observing your expansion across the galaxy for several years. We have studied your military tactics, analyzed your technology, and learned from the experiences of the 47 civilizations you have conquered. We would like to discuss the future of galactic civilization with you." The casual tone of the message sent shock waves through the Imperial command structure. Nathan spoke as if humanity was the established power in the galaxy, and the Empire was merely a regional force that needed to be educated about proper behavior. No species had ever addressed Imperial commanders with such confidence and apparent authority. Captain Lisa Morgan watched the deployment of Earth's hidden fleet with satisfaction. The smaller ships emerging from the Leviathan were each unique, designed using different combinations of alien technologies. Some vessels looked like they were built from living crystal, similar to Imperial ships. Others appeared to be constructed from exotic metals that shifted between solid and liquid states. A few ships seemed to be made entirely of controlled energy, patterns that maintained physical form through advanced force field manipulation. "Fleet deployment is 60% complete," Lisa reported. "All vessels are maintaining perfect formation and responding to Central Command protocols. Enemy sensors are detecting at least 40 different types of propulsion systems and 37 distinct weapon configurations." Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hayes coordinated the tactical demonstration that would show the Empire exactly what they were facing. Each human ship began displaying capabilities that should have been impossible according to known physics. Some vessels performed instantaneous jumps across vast distances without using any visible FTL drives. Others seemed to phase in and out of normal spacetime, becoming temporarily invisible before reappearing in completely different locations. The Imperial fleet watched in stunned silence as human ships demonstrated technologies that surpassed anything in their databases. Veltar frantically tried to analyze the impossible maneuvers she was witnessing. Ships were moving faster than light without creating the energy signatures that should accompany such travel. Weapons were firing projectiles that seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Shield systems were adapting in real time to counterattacks that hadn't even been fired yet. "Commander," Veltar reported with obvious panic in her voice, "the human ships are violating fundamental laws of physics. They are performing maneuvers that our best theoretical models say should be impossible. Their technology appears to be at least 1,000 years more advanced than anything we have encountered." But High Commander Zeeth Kalar was beginning to understand the truth. The humans weren't necessarily more advanced than the Empire. They were simply using Imperial technology in ways the Empire had never considered. Every capability the human ships displayed was based on principles that existed somewhere in the Imperial database. But humanity had learned to combine and improve these technologies in ways that created entirely new possibilities. Dr. Nathan Cross continued his calm explanation of human capabilities. He described how Earth had spent decades studying every battle the Empire had fought. Humanity had learned from the mistakes of every conquered species and developed countermeasures for every Imperial tactic. More importantly, they had improved upon the technologies of all 47 defeated civilizations. "Each of our ships incorporates systems inspired by your previous conquests," Nathan explained. "The crystal matrix hulls are based on your own ship designs, but enhanced with quantum field generators that make them nearly indestructible. The living metal components adapt to damage in real time. The energy manipulation systems can convert matter to pure force and back again at will." The human demonstration continued as more ships emerged from the Leviathan's seemingly endless internal spaces. Manufacturing facilities that had been hidden within the Megacarrier began producing additional vessels in real time. The Empire watched in horror as the human fleet grew larger with each passing minute. Commander Jake Phillips maintained communication protocols while monitoring Imperial responses. He could detect growing panic in the alien command structure as they realized the scope of what they were facing. The Empire had built their dominance on the assumption that they possessed the most advanced technology in the galaxy. That assumption was being systematically destroyed by humanity's demonstration. Imperial fleet communications are showing signs of command breakdown, Jake reported. Several ship captains are requesting permission to retreat. High Commander Zeeth Kalar is consulting with his War Council about possible tactical responses. Engineer Amy Sullivan revealed the full extent of the Leviathan's transformation. The original ship had completely unfolded into a massive mobile base that dwarfed even the largest Imperial vessels. Manufacturing centers, research laboratories, living quarters for thousands of crew members, and defensive systems that could protect an entire solar system were all contained within the structure. "Full deployment is complete," Amy announced. "All systems are online and operating at maximum efficiency. The mobile base is ready to begin Phase 2 of the demonstration." Captain Lisa Morgan coordinated the next phase of humanity's revelation. Human ships began performing coordinated maneuvers that demonstrated their understanding of Imperial tactics. They recreated famous battles from the Empire's history, but with human forces playing the role of both attacker and defender. Each simulation showed how human technology and tactics could have saved the civilizations that the Empire had conquered. The psychological impact on the Imperial fleet was devastating. They watched as human ships effortlessly countered every strategy that had made the Empire dominant across the galaxy. Worse, the humans were obviously holding back. Their demonstrations showed overwhelming superiority, while making it clear that they weren't using their full capabilities. Dr. Nathan Cross began explaining the philosophical differences between human and imperial approaches to galactic civilization. The Empire conquered and absorbed other species, growing stronger through domination. Humanity had grown stronger through observation and learning. Earth had studied every alien culture and incorporated the best aspects of each into their own civilization. We have learned patience from the Zine-Thari meditative traditions, Nathan explained. We have incorporated the Krell engineering principles that your empire destroyed on Kepler 442. We have adapted the Vorthan military strategies that you countered during the Battle of the Crimson Nebula. Every species you conquered made humanity stronger because we learned from their experiences. High Commander Zeth Kalar realized that the Empire had been training their own eventual replacement without knowing it. Every conquest had provided humanity with new knowledge and capabilities. The Empire's own success had created the force that was now demonstrating superior power in every area that mattered. The human fleet completed its tactical demonstration by performing maneuvers that combined the best elements from all 47 conquered civilizations. Ships moved in formations that incorporated Altarian mathematics, nebular physics, and crystalline engineering principles. Their weapons used plasma forge technology, enhanced with quantum cascade amplifiers, and guided by stellar navigation systems. That made targeting impossible to counter. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hayes coordinated the final phase of the demonstration. Human ships began showing their ability to adapt in real time to any possible Imperial response. Simulated battles played out where human forces overcame impossible odds through constant innovation and tactical flexibility. The Admiral Marcus Blake made a decision that completely shattered High Commander Zeth Kalar's understanding of warfare and conquest. Instead of demanding surrender or beginning an attack, the human leader proposed something that had never happened in galactic history. He offered the Empire a series of challenges that would test their capabilities against humanity's achievements. High Commander, Marcus said through the communication link, we could destroy your fleet easily, but that would accomplish nothing useful. Instead, we propose a different approach. We will demonstrate the full extent of human capabilities through a series of tests. If your empire can match our achievements in any area, we will withdraw from this galaxy and leave it to your expansion. Dr. Nathan Cross coordinated the first challenge from his science station. The Leviathan projected a massive holographic display that showed a complex engineering problem. The task was to convert an entire asteroid field into usable materials, while maintaining perfect environmental balance. This was something the human fleet could accomplish in a matter of hours using technologies adapted from 17 different conquered civilizations. Your first challenge is resource conversion on a stellar scale, Nathan explained calmly. We will provide you with the same raw materials and the same time limit that we will use. You may attempt to solve this problem using any methods in your technological database. The Imperial science teams worked frantically to develop a solution. Their traditional approach was to use quantum disruptors to break down asteroids into component elements, then transport the materials to manufacturing facilities for processing. But the scale of the human challenge required techniques that pushed their technology far beyond its normal limits. Engineer Amy Sullivan demonstrated the human approach to the same problem. Earth ships surrounded the asteroid field and began projecting controlled gravitational fields that gently compressed the space rocks into perfect geometric shapes. Matter conversion beams then transformed the asteroids directly into finished products without any waste or environmental damage. The entire process was completed in half the time the Empire had estimated would be necessary. Our solution incorporates gravitational manipulation techniques from the Altarian archives. matter conversion principles discovered by the Stellar Federation, and efficiency algorithms developed by the Binary Collective, Amy explained as her demonstration concluded. Each of these civilizations contributed essential elements to our final methodology. Captain Lisa Morgan coordinated the second challenge, which focused on tactical innovation under impossible circumstances. The human fleet created a complex battle simulation where defending forces were outnumbered 50-1 and had inferior technology. The challenge was to achieve victory through pure strategic thinking and tactical adaptation. The Imperial commanders applied their standard battle doctrines to the simulated scenario. They used overwhelming firepower, coordinated formations, and technological superiority to attempt victory. But the simulation was designed to counter every traditional approach to warfare. The defending forces in the scenario had access to the same tactics that humanity had learned from studying Imperial conquests. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hayes demonstrated the human solution to the same tactical problem. Instead of trying to win through conventional military action, human forces used psychological warfare, environmental manipulation, and social engineering to turn the attacking army against itself. They demonstrated how superior numbers could become a liability when the enemy understood how to exploit command structures and communication networks. Victory through adaptation rather than domination, Ryan explained as his tactical demonstration concluded. We studied the defeat of the Hive Collective at Proxima Station and learned how the Empire used their own unity against them. Our solution applies similar principles, but in reverse, turning large force sizes into organizational weaknesses. The third challenge tested technological innovation under extreme constraints. Dion Nathan Cross presented both fleets with a scenario where they needed to create faster-than-light communication across an entire galaxy, using only materials that could be found on a single planet. The Empire's best engineers worked for hours trying to develop a solution using their existing knowledge base. The human approach involved combining crystal resonance techniques from fallen empires with quantum entanglement principles that the Empire had never learned to use properly. Earth scientists had studied how 47 different species approached interstellar communication and synthesized their methods into something entirely new. Our solution uses crystalline harmonic frequencies to establish quantum bridges between specially prepared materials, Nathan explained. The technique was originally developed by 3 different species that your Empire conquered in separate campaigns. We learned to combine their individual discoveries into a unified system. High Commander Zeth Kalar watched each demonstration with growing understanding of humanity's true advantage. The humans weren't necessarily superior inventors or engineers. Their greatest strength was their ability to learn from others and improve upon existing ideas. Every human innovation was built on foundations laid by the civilizations the Empire had destroyed. The fourth challenge tested the ability to create sustainable civilization on a galactic scale. The scenario required building a network of interconnected worlds that could support billions of inhabitants while maintaining perfect ecological balance. The Empire's standard approach was to extract resources from conquered planets and transport them to central manufacturing worlds. Engineer Amy Sullivan demonstrated how humanity would approach the same problem. Human ships began terraforming simulated worlds using techniques that enhanced rather than depleted natural ecosystems. They showed how different species could work together to create something greater than any single civilization could achieve alone. Our methodology preserves the unique characteristics of each world while creating beneficial connections between different ecosystems, Amy explained. We learned these techniques by studying the civilizations that your Empire replaced with standardized imperial colonies. The fifth and final challenge was the most complex. It required developing a defense against an overwhelming external threat that could destroy entire civilizations. The scenario presented both fleets with an enemy that possessed technology beyond anything either humanity or the Empire had ever encountered. Captain Lisa Morgan coordinated the human response to this ultimate test. Earth's strategy involved creating alliances between former enemies, sharing technologies freely between different species, and building defensive networks that grew stronger through diversity rather than uniformity. Our solution is based on cooperation instead of conquest, Lisa explained. We studied how the Empire's expansion actually weakened galactic defenses by eliminating the diversity that makes civilizations resilient. Our approach builds strength through unity while preserving the unique contributions of each species. The Imperial fleet completed their attempts at each challenge, but their solutions were limited by their traditional approaches to problems. They could use force effectively, and their technology was powerful within its established parameters. But they lacked the flexibility and innovation that came from truly understanding and learning from other civilizations. High Commander Zeth Kalar realized that the Empire had been following a path that led to stagnation rather than growth. Their conquests had given them access to new technologies, but they had never learned to improve upon or combine those technologies in innovative ways. They had become powerful but inflexible, dominant but unable to adapt. Dr. Nathan Cross delivered the final part of humanity's message to the stunned Imperial fleet. The challenges had demonstrated that Earth possessed capabilities that exceeded anything the Empire could match. But more importantly, they had shown that human strength came from learning and cooperation rather than domination and control. We have shown you our capabilities, Nathan said quietly. We could have destroyed your fleet before you even knew we were here. We could conquer your empire using tactics and technologies you cannot counter. But that would make us no different from you. Instead, we offer you something the galaxy has never seen, the chance to grow stronger through cooperation instead of conquest. The communication channel fell silent as the Imperial commanders tried to process what they had witnessed. Everything they believed about power and civilization had been challenged by a species that had learned to succeed where 47 others had failed. Admiral Marcus Blake prepared for the final phase of humanity's first contact with the Galactic Empire. The demonstrations were complete, and the aliens understood exactly what Earth was offering. Now it was time to reveal the true reason why humanity had been preparing for this encounter for so many years. High Commander Zeth Kalar made a decision that shocked every member of his fleet and changed the course of galactic history. Instead of ordering a retreat or attempting a desperate attack, he opened a private communication channel to Admiral Marcus Blake and spoke words that no Imperial commander had ever uttered before. Admiral Blake, Zeth Kalar said quietly, I request asylum for myself and my entire fleet. We surrender not to your superior firepower, but to your superior wisdom. The Galactic Empire has been wrong about everything that matters. The admission sent shock waves through both fleets. Imperial officers had never heard their supreme commander acknowledge defeat, let alone request protection from an enemy. But Dr. Nathan Cross had been expecting exactly this response based on his analysis of Imperial psychology and the hidden stresses within their civilization. High Commander, Nathan replied calmly, we accept your request, but first you must understand what you are truly asking for. Asylum means abandoning everything the Empire represents and helping us prepare for a threat that makes our current confrontation seem insignificant. Zeth Kalar's 4 eyes focused intently on the communication display as Nathan began revealing information that explained everything about the Empire's desperate expansion across the galaxy. The truth was that Imperial civilization had been running from something far more dangerous than any territorial conquest. Their rapid spread through space was not driven by ambition, but by terror. Every 3,000 years, Nathan explained, Ancient automated war machines emerge from the galactic void and systematically eliminate all advanced civilizations they encounter. These devices were created by a species that died out millions of years ago, but their programming continues to function perfectly. The Empire's expansion was an attempt to build forces large enough to survive the next purge. Captain Lisa Morgan displayed tactical analyses that showed the scope of the approaching threat. The ancient machines were already moving toward the galaxy's inhabited regions. Their technology was so advanced that even the combined forces of a current empire would be insufficient to stop them. Every previous galactic civilization had been completely destroyed when the machines last activated. The Empire conquered 47 species, not for glory or resources, Lisa explained, but because your leaders believed that only a unified galactic military could stand against the ancient threat. Unfortunately, conquest and assimilation actually made you weaker rather than stronger. Engineer Amy Sullivan revealed the human analysis of why previous civilizations had failed against the ancient machines. The automated weapons were designed to exploit the weaknesses of unified, standardized military forces. They could adapt quickly to any consistent tactical approach and counter any technology that followed predictable patterns. Diversity is the key to survival, Amy explained. The ancient machines are programmed to learn from and counter specific types of warfare, but they cannot adapt to constantly changing tactics that combine technologies and strategies from multiple different civilizations. Admiral Marcus Blake outlined humanity's true plan for dealing with the approaching crisis. Earth had not been preparing to fight the Empire. They had been preparing to unite every surviving species in the galaxy into a defensive alliance that would be stronger than the sum of its parts. The Leviathan is not just a warship, Marcus explained. It is a mobile base for coordinating the defense of galactic civilization. We have technologies and strategies from all 47 conquered species, plus innovations from dozens of other civilizations that the Empire never encountered. Our goal is to create a defense network that grows stronger through cooperation, rather than conquest. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hayes demonstrated how the new alliance would function. Instead of replacing the Empire with human dominance, Earth proposed a completely different approach to galactic organization. Each species would maintain their unique characteristics and contribute their special strengths to a collective defense effort. Every civilization that the Empire conquered still exists in our databases, Ryan explained. We have preserved their cultures, their technologies, and their tactical knowledge. When we liberate Imperial territory, we will restore these species to independence while building cooperative relationships between all galactic civilizations. Dion Nathan Cross revealed the most shocking part of humanity's plan. Earth had been in secret contact with resistance movements throughout Imperial space for years. The conquered species had not been truly destroyed. Many had hidden colonies and preserved knowledge that could be restored when the Empire's control was removed. The Xenthari still practiced their meditative disciplines on hidden worlds throughout the Outer Rim, Nathan explained. The Stellar Federation maintains scientific research stations in unexplored star systems. The Binary Collective continues to develop computational theories in deep space installations. Every species the Empire thought they had eliminated is ready to rejoin galactic civilization. High Commander Zeph Kalar felt overwhelming emotions as he realized that the Empire's entire foundation was built on lies. The conquered species were not gone. The Imperial expansion had not created strength through unity. Instead, it had weakened the galaxy by destroying the diversity that could have provided real protection against the ancient threat. Commander Jake Phillips established communication links with resistance movements throughout Imperial space. Within hours, hidden colonies and secret bases began responding to Earth's liberation signals. The galaxy's true population was revealed to be far larger and more diverse than the Empire had ever acknowledged. "We are receiving responses from over 200 different civilizations," Jake reported. "Most are requesting immediate assistance in overthrowing Imperial occupation forces. Several species are offering technologies and resources that could significantly enhance our defensive capabilities." Engineer Amy Sullivan began coordinating the transformation of the Leviathan into a true mobile command center for galactic defense. The Megacarrier's internal systems expanded even further, creating space for representatives from every liberated species. Manufacturing facilities began producing ships and weapons designed specifically to counter the ancient threat. Captain Lisa Morgan took command of military training programs that would prepare the galaxy for the approaching crisis. Her classes combined Imperial discipline with human innovation and tactical knowledge from dozens of different species. The result was a fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Our new alliance will field military units that use crystalline shielding, Alterian mathematics, human adaptability, and nebular energy manipulation, all within the same tactical formations," Lisa explained. "The ancient machines have never encountered such diversity in a unified force." The Imperial fleet began the process of integration into humanity's alliance structure. Ships were retrofitted with technologies from liberated civilizations. Crews received training in cooperative tactics that emphasized flexibility over standardization. The transformation was rapid and comprehensive. Dr. Nathan Cross coordinated diplomatic efforts to establish peaceful relationships between species that had been enemies under Imperial rule. His background in cultural analysis made him uniquely qualified to help different civilizations find common ground despite their historical conflicts. "The key to success is understanding that every species has something valuable to contribute," Nathan explained to the growing alliance. "The Empire's mistake was trying to make everyone the same. Our strength comes from combining different approaches to create something entirely new." Admiral Marcus Blake led the Leviathan toward the first Imperial stronghold that would be liberated by the new alliance. Behind them, a fleet of ships from dozens of different civilizations followed in formation. Each vessel was unique, but all were united by a common purpose that transcended the old Imperial model of conquest and domination. The galaxy's ancient automated defenses were still approaching from the void beyond the rim. Their arrival was inevitable, and their power was overwhelming. But for the first time in galactic history, the inhabited worlds would face this threat with true unity based on cooperation rather than conquest. As the Leviathan jumped to hyperspace, leading the Liberation Fleet, long-range sensors detected movement in the deepest reaches of space. Ancient signals were awakening after millennia of dormancy. The machines were coming, but the galaxy was finally ready to prove that diversity and cooperation could triumph over any force that sought to impose uniformity through destruction. The future remained uncertain, but humanity had given galactic civilization something it had never possessed before: hope based on the understanding that strength comes not from eliminating differences, but from celebrating and combining them into something greater than any single species could achieve alone. The age of Imperial conquest was ending, and the era of cooperative defense was about to begin.